Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will present about environmental management accounting. So, our members is me, which is Muhammad Daniel bin Zulkarnain, Muhammad Aiman Azmi bin Muhammad Rafash, Nur Atika binti Abdul Aziz, Nur Aina Khairina binti Abdul Malik Effendi.
Right now, we're facing a man-made disaster of global scale, our greatest threat in thousands of years, climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we piling in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the Earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire Earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. If there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species is that it is a human species, one species.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter. Simply put, if we don't protect nature, we can't protect ourselves.
The only way we can solve a problem is by a human solution. Never can we sit back and wait for miracles to save us. Miracles don't happen. Sweat happens. Efforts happens. Thought happens.
Next, we will see current issue that arise in Malaysia about environmental problems. Environmental pollution problems in Malaysia have a long history. Environmental pollution and ecological degradation have continued to be serious problems and have inflicted great damage on the economy and quality of life. Malaysia faces many natural hazards, particularly flooding, landslides and forest fires. Human-induced transformation of the environment is often regarded as more problematic than natural disaster, but less so than in other Asian countries. Automobile emissions are Malaysia's major source of air pollution, but air quality indicators for Malaysian cities tend to indicate cleaner than in most other Asian cities. So, for the introduction, The global profile of environmental issues has risen significantly during the past 2 decades, precipitated in part by major incidents. These events received worldwide media attention and increased concerns over major issues. Business have become increasingly aware of the environmental implications of their operations, products, and services. Environmental risks cannot be ignored. Poor environmental behavior may have a real adverse impact on the business and its finance. For definition of environment management accounting, which consists of management accounting system and practices that provide information about the environmental impact of an organization activities, which is IFAC 2005. Other than that, EMA is the generation and analysis of both financial and non-financial in order to support internal environmental management process. It is complementary to the conventional financial management accounting approach, with the aim to develop appropriate mechanism that assist in the identification and allocation of environment-related costs, which is Bennett and James, 1998, Frost and Wilhelms, 2000. The major areas for the application for EMA are product pricing, budgeting investment, appraisal, calculating costs and saving of environment projects, or setting quantified performance targets. Sustainable economic and environmental development may be described as development that satisfy the requirement of the current generation without jeopardizing future generation ability to satisfy their own needs. In order to be a good corporate citizen, a firm needs to adopt policies and take action that become environment friendly. The companies must develop strategy which translate action into benefits, improve their environmental performance, and meet the environment demands placed upon them by government and shareholders. So next slide is advantages of environmental management accounting, which is first, disclose utilization of natural resources. Environmental accounting is useful in displaying the country's usage of natural resources, the expenditure required to utilize them, and the money produced from them in a transparent manner. Next is social contribution by corporates. Environmental accounting helps in measuring the contribution made by various corporations or companies in fulfilling their social responsibilities. Next is environmental protection, which is a commercial firms does not exist in isolation. It needs the assistance of social and system to optimize prosperity. Environmental accounting assists in determining the amount to which a corporate firm has used environmental resource. In any instance, we demonstrate that a corporate firm does not contaminate, pollute, or threaten the environment in the course of its operation. In fact, several laws have been implemented in our nation to safeguard the environment. Next slide is about limitation of environmental management accounting, which is non-recognition of environmental expenditure incurred to protect the environment or preventing it from degradation cannot be separated from SNA data as per the present system of national accounts. Next is consumption of natural capital. The environment supplies some high-value items that are not offered on the market. This may include firewood, forest-generated construction materials, medical herbs, and so on. These products are not included in the national accounts of certain nations. They do, however, compute the marketable worth of comparable things that and use it to evaluate non-marketed commodities and service. Third is non-marketed good and service. Depreciation is defined in the national accounting system as the progressive depletion of physical assets such as plant and equipment. However, the depletion of natural capital particularly the forest, is regarded as a resource of revenue. This appears to be a contradictory strategy. It will be reasonable to approach natural capital depletion in the same manner as physical asset depletion.
Next, we go to the challenge of environment management accountings. The first challenge is communications or links between accountants and other departments often not well developed. Environmental personnel has extensive knowledge of environment issues but have little understanding of the accounting records. In contrast, the accountants has access to a large amounts of accounting information but have little understanding of the organization's environmental issues. As a result, accounting personnel are frequently unable to provide types of accounting information that environmental and technical personnel requires. Next is investment decisions are often made on the basis of incomplete information. The inaccuracy of estimates of environmental costs and the benefits adds to the inherent uncertainty of all the investment decisions. All potentially significant environment-related costs that may influence the returns on the investment must be considered by the organizations. The organization must ensure that environmental managers, technical experts, and also the accountant can be collaborated to provide a complete picture of environmental issues. Okay, next is material use, flows, and cost information often not tracked adequately. The available information is currently insufficient, accurate, or detailed for the environmental, efficiency, and other decisions purpose. For example, material purchase information not always allows for a clear identification, require a time-consuming and costly manual data reorganizations and a comparison process. The last challenge is many types of the environment-related cost information is not found in the accounting records. The accounting record typically do not contain much information on the future environmental costs, even though they may be quite significant. Many other less intangible environmental costs are also missing from the accounting records. These costs must be difficult to be estimated, but they can be both real or significant to the financial health of the organization. Next, we go to the relationship between EMA and EMS. EMA is a board of sets of approach and principles that provide data for routine decision making, which is valuable for the environment initiative. EMS is one of the initiative with system that organizations put in place to manage their environmental performance.
And now we are going to talk about the definition of environmental cost. What is environmental cost? Environmental cost is the cost that an organization entails the cost of preventing, monitoring, and reporting the environmental consequences. It also includes the cost that an organization incurs when it fails to comply with the environmental regulations. Environmental cost also includes current and future environmental impacts that the organization is responsible for, and effective control of environmental costs will increase the organization's overall profitability, and it may impact the environment in a number of ways, including air pollution, manufacturing, emissions, wetland impact, and waste disposal. Next, we are going to talk about the 5 tier of environmental costs, which is tier number 1 is conventional costs, tier number 2 is hidden costs, tier 3 contingent costs, tier 4 relationship and image costs, and finally tier 5 is societal costs. Right now, we are going to talk about tier 1, which is conventional costs. Conventional cost is direct cost that is associated with capital expenditure, raw materials, and other operating and maintenance costs. It can be found in the accounting system of most of the organization, and they may not be reported in a form that can be readily used by managers to assess environmental expenditures. It also includes the cost of purchasing equipment and plant that will prevent environmental impact. Next is tier 2. We're going to talk about hidden costs. Basically, hidden costs includes the cost of monitoring and reporting activities that is comply with the regulations. In other words, hidden regulatory costs come from activities such as monitoring and reporting of environmental activities and emission. Next is cost of searching for environmentally responsible suppliers, and finally is the ongoing cost of cleaning up contaminated land. And these costs actually can be found in the accounting system, but may not be easy to find and report, as they are often hidden in the various overhead accounts and in the cost of wages and salaries. Now we're going to talk about the third tier, which is contingent costs. Contingent costs includes the costs that may incur in the future depending on the future events. These costs will be recognized within an organization's internal reports, and it will disclose in the notes to the financial statement included in the external financial reports. However, only if they are material in their amount. For example, contingent liabilities arise from failure to clean up the contaminated sites, and fines and penalties for non-compliance with the regulations. Tier 4 is relationship and image costs. In other words, perception. It reflects perceptions of various stakeholders. It is rarely measured in standard information system, and it is difficult to measure it objectively. Less tangible costs and benefits that relates to consumers' perceptions and employees. The final tier is tier 5, which is societal costs. Societal costs is organization that incurs costs on others, the environment, and society, for which they may not be held legally liable, and for which the legal system does not provide compensation. This cost is very difficult to recognize and measure because of the cost of estimating the impacts, and also the specialist environmental knowledge that might be needed to do so. In some cases, it may be easier to use physical measures to understand the external impact.
Next, we go to the current initiative of the EMA. Firstly is activity-based costing. ABC is a method of managerial cost accounting that allocates all the internal costs to the cost centers and also cost drivers on the basis of the activities. ABC method is applied to the environmental costs, distinguish between the environment-related costs and also environment-driven costs. The environment-related costs, which can be attributed directly to the cost centers, and the environment-driven costs, which are generally hidden in the overhead. The environment-driven costs are removed from the general overheads and traced to the products or services. This means that the cost drivers are determined for those costs, and products are charged for the use of these environmental costs based on the amounts of the cost drivers that they contribute to the activity. This should give a good attributes of environmental costs to the individual products and should result in a better controls of the costs. Next is LCC, which is life cycle costing, that consider the cost and the revenue of a product over the whole life rather than one accounting period. Therefore, the full environmental cost of producing a product will be taken into account. In order to reduce the life cycle costs, and organizations may adopt a TQM approach. This approach objective is to make a zero compliance, zero spill, zero pollution, zero waste, and also zero accidents. The information systems need to be able to support such as environmental objectives via the provisions of feedbacks on the success of the organization efforts in order to achieve the objective. Next is eco-labeling. Eco-labeling is a specific type of product labels that is intended to demonstrate the environmental performance of product and services. To obtain an eco-label certificate, a product or services must demonstrate that it can reduce the overall environmental effects of its productions or use by meeting the specific environmental quality. The objective of eco-labels is to protect the environment, to build a consumer awareness, and lastly to encourage the environment-friendly innovations. The examples of eco-labels is serum certificate. The serum certificates that meet certain environmental protections and quality standards are tested against a pre-set of a green criteria. Lastly is environmental supply chains. It is a process of using input that are environmentally friendly and transforming them into the output through the change agents that can be reused or reclaimed at the end of the life cycle. The objective of environmental supply chains is to eliminate or minimize the waste such as chemicals, hazardous greenhouse gas, and others. It also helps the organizations to develop strategies which lead to a higher levels of profitability by reducing the environmental risk and also increasing the environmental efficiency. For example, Adidas had made 11 million pairs of shoes by using a recycled plastic in terms of selections of the product materials.
Okay, we proceed to application to industry. Toshiba is a good company that we can take a look at. First, they promote environmental management by considering environmental stewardship and promote environmental activities in harmony with economic activities. Second, they're providing environmentally conscious product and services, reducing their environmental impact through business activity. And last but not least, Toshiba also make collaboration with their customers by contribute to society through its environmental activities, include cooperation with society at large and with local communities. Toshiba also formulate environmental action plan for medium-term goals and manage specific environmental activities. They also seek after high effectiveness in assembling, intend to at the same time diminish nature by appropriately overseeing ozone depleting substance, waste, water, and synthetic compound discharged from creation locales. They also proactively advance energy saving measure and further develop the creation process at their local, expand the transforming of waste into resource, and reuse water around the world. Toshiba are attempting to work on the ecological presentation of item and administration by diminishing CO2 carbon dioxide discharge for both power utilization and supplies. They are also promoting initiative to recycle plastic waste generated by end-of-life product. Last but not least, for the conclusion that we can get is environment management accounting comprise of the bookkeeping frameworks and practices that give data about the ecological effect of an association exercise. There are 5-tier environmental costs, which is conventional costs, hidden costs, contingent costs, relationship costs, and societal costs. The current drive in ecological related administration bookkeeping that organization could apply is incorporate normal capital bookkeeping drive consistent to guideline by energy saving apparatus, cost decrease, and the main thing is top administration responsibility. That's all from our group. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.